Hello, this is the Bus 355 Summer Test Review. Okay, so let's go over some of the basics of the test. The first thing you should know, so let me just resize this. Okay, so under announcements now for quite a while, I have posted this announcement that shows the test 2 is on Friday, June 26th, and this is on-campus exam. So test 2 will be in person, on campus. This is not something I wanted, believe me. This is a requirement of the curriculum committee that in order to have this class online, they wanted to make sure that at least one test, everybody was there in person. So this is that test. So test 2 will be the test, will be in-person exam on Friday, June 27th, and the exam will be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a 2-hour exam, and it will be on campus in Harriman Hall. That's the big business building, Harriman Hall, room 104, and the test is going to cover the test will cover chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so the first question you're going to have is, how many questions are on the test? So the test is 50 multiple choice questions. And very importantly, you can also bring a 8.5 by 11 inch. That's your standard piece of paper. Okay, so you can bring an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of standard paper that you can write anything you want on it front to back. Now you have to handwrite it, you can't type it, because people could fit, believe it or not, people could fit probably, I saw one student once fit so many pages of text, very small, and they brought with them a little a magnifying glass. So that way they fit huge amounts of text, and they use the magnifying glass to look over everything. That is not allowed, so no printing. Everything has to be handwritten, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that you can use front and back. And I'm thorough here because every time I say you can bring one-page cheat sheet, I get people who bring in 8.5 by 14 or a poster board, or they try to interpret it as as strangely as possible. So that's why I'm really saying 8.5 by 11 normal sheet of paper that you can write anything you want on it, formulas, terms, passages, graphs, whatever you want to put on this piece of paper you can bring to help you with the exam. It's not an open book exam. You can't bring your textbook like you could do when we do the online test. This test, but you can bring this one sheet of paper, and I recommend filling it up mostly with formulas are probably the most important thing to have on this piece of paper. Okay, so what are some of the topics? You're probably asking, what are the topics? Some of the topics on the exam. So here are some of the topics, but not all of the topics on the exam that you should be familiar with. One thing you should be familiar with is the capital asset pricing model. And this is from at least chapter 5. So the capital asset pricing model you should be familiar with. You should be familiar with beta coefficient, and what it means and how you use it in capital asset pricing model and how you use it to measure risk. Let's see. You should know what international diversification is and how to achieve it. what an ADS is. That's related to international diversification. Okay, let's see. I'm actually looking at the test as I'm doing this to make sure I get a good representation of what's on the exam. Standard deviation, as we use it in stock, how is it related to stocks, and how can standard deviation be used to help understand the risks of stock returns? All right. Correlated and uncorrelated assets. What does that mean? These are things that you should be looking up in the book, and the book defines them. It has to do with the movement of stock prices back and forth and how two different stock prices relate to each other. All right. Okay. Modern portfolio theory, as discussed in probably chapter 6 or 7, possibly 8. I'm not sure 100%. Should know what treasury stock is. IPO, initial public offering. Blue chip, what are blue chip stocks? Large, small, mid caps. Know what those definitions are, what they are. Okay. You should be familiar with the term common shareholders and what are common shareholders in relationship to stocks. You should know book value, how to calculate it, and book value per share. You should be familiar with stock splits. Classification of stock, or stock classification. Class A, Class B. Why are stocks classified? You should be familiar with debt to equity ratio times earned ratio. Earnings per share, how it's calculated, what's it mean. Current ratio, total asset turnover, price to earnings ratio, it's another good one to know. Stockholders equity. What is stockholders equity? All right. You know the securities analysis process. There's a process to that. How to value preferred stock. Is a formula for valuing preferred stock. Constant growth, dividend valuation. Whoops, having a typing issue today. It's another one to know. Let's see. See, dividend yield. I listed some of these before. You should be familiar with the financial ratios that's described in the textbook. Stock dividends. Just familiar with that concept and the valuation of stock dividends. You should be familiar with fundamental analysis. What are whisper numbers? Okay, so these are some of the main topics that will be in, oh, there's a number of them. These are some of the main topics that will be on the test from chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is not to say this is 100% of all topics on the test, but this is a majority of them that just running through the test, this is a majority of the topics on the exam. And the exam should be, it's pretty straightforward. I have multiple versions, so I'm going to seat you and I'm going to put out the multiple versions, so don't be tempted to look at your neighbor's tests. You can bring, of course, I guess we can call this a cheat sheet, a one-page cheat sheet that you can write down any formulas or any concepts from the textbook. You can write this down and bring it to the test. So you have it the day of the test. 50 multiple choice questions. Most people should be able to finish this test in 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm giving you 2 hours for the exam from 10 to 12 p.m. And I think this pretty much spells out everything for this in-person exam. Now, if you're late for the exam, you can start the exam late. However, the first person as soon as the first person is done and leaves the room, I won't accept anybody else into the room until after that point, because that person could have left, given you the answers or give you information. So that's why you have, probably a certain amount of time that you can show up late before I won't let you take the test. Now, if you do show up late, the test ends promptly at 12 p.m. So if you show up at 11:45, you have 15 minutes to do the test. So make sure that you're there on time and you're prepared and you're ready to take the exam. And bring a number 2 pencil, a calculator. I will provide the Scantrons and the tests, of course, and that's it. If there are no makeups for this exam. If you do miss this exam, you will lose all the points for the exam. So just know that up front. And that's it. So if you have any other questions about the exam, you could use the in-class discussion board on Blackboard to ask the questions there. So that way I can answer the questions so the whole class can get the opportunity to benefit from that. I will not give you any information about the test privately through email. So don't try to email me privately and ask me questions about the exam. You can only do that through the discussion board. Okay, that's it. Good luck, and I'll see you Friday.